This is John for the Everyday Fan Sports. Today, I have the pleasure of being on the beat with Chicago Blitz ex-league champ, ex-cup MVP, Jade Austin. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. How does that sound? Ex-league champ, ex-cup MVP?
It's a little bit weird, honestly. Thinking about the start to this league and the journey that it's been. But it feels pretty good. It sounds nice. Yeah.
I would think so. Yeah, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about your athletic background leading up to the Blitz.
Sure. So I've kind of grew up an athlete. I started with American freestyle karate actually when I was like 7. I went through to black belt, and then got into like organized school sports. I played volleyball, basketball, ran track in high school, and then I went on to do like club volleyball and track in college. And then,
sorry, go ahead.
No, after that, it was mostly like some competitive volleyball here in the city, some sand, and then I just came across what was the Blitz at the time, and just thought it was a dope group of women. So I just got lucky to find them, really.
And had you played competitive football prior to that?
No, the Blitz tryout was my first ever experience. I didn't even really know football that well. I went for it. Yeah.
So what led you to that? I mean, obviously you're a competitive athlete, but that's taken a big jump to go from, volleyball and all that to full on tackle football.
Yeah, I think that's what drew me to it. Just the intensity of the sport, and to be able to play competitive sport at that level, with women who also had the same mindset and intensity. That's really what drew me to it is, I can play volleyball, I can compete and travel, but it's just not the same intensity.
Now I have to ask, I love the Blitz. I love the Blitz. I followed the Blitz for years, going back to 2014. The uniform is always a source of controversy. What were your thoughts initially on the uniforms, and did that change at all? I know the uniforms actually changed. Did your thoughts on that change?
Yeah, so when I joined, I think the new uniforms were getting rolled out just as I was joining. So I was like introduced to the idea that it would be shorts, which was more clothing than it had been in the past, right? Playing in it, I'm used to volleyball uniforms, that's pretty much what it is, but you're doing a lot more, it's a lot more physical, obviously, playing football. So hopefully moving forward, we see it moving more towards a traditional uniform. That's what I hope for. I think it makes more sense. It just makes more sense. I think it looks cleaner. So that's my hope for the league, really.
Do you think the uniforms take away a little bit from the view of you guys are all great athletes. Do you think the uniforms kind of, take a little bit of the spotlight away from just how good you guys really are?
I think at first impression, I think it does. But when you actually get into the game and you start watching the game, I think it's hard to focus on that because it's fast, it's real action. There's, it's a field full of athletes. But I think initially it can be a turnoff, especially if we're promoting to young girls and trying to get young women and young families interested in growing the sport. I think we could be taken more seriously, and we'd also probably have a better appeal to the media in general. It's because of where we're at, like socially. So,
sure.
Yeah.
Now you guys practice, I should say, a long time. You guys, I'm not exactly sure. I remember back in the old days, they would start practicing somewhere around the first of the year, and they would practice 3 nights a week, sometimes going all the way and until the season ends in like September. And you guys play 2 games. How hard is that to keep your level of intensity up through that whole the whole long stretch?
I've really been like looking back at the season and seeing how like the depth of the team that we kept the entire time, knowing the intensity. I think the intensity that we kept is actually what kept everyone like interested and invested, because there was never really any let up. Even after seasons were canceled, we were still meeting like via Zoom. We were still doing off-season workouts together. So I think actually keeping up that intensity is what kept us engaged and ready. It was definitely tough, especially after the second COVID season, like when that second season was canceled. I think it, shook the confidence of people that this was going to be a real thing. But I have to credit it to Sid and the veterans, the coaching staff and the veteran players, for just staying serious about it and like bringing the rest of us in, because it's a really great, healthy culture that our team has. I've never experienced anything like that. And obviously very few of us have experienced, going through seasons like we had the last couple of years, but it's a really healthy culture.
Now, the scouting report, some of the scouting reports that I read, so they called you the most complete safety in the league. Does that put extra pressure on you, or does that put extra pressure on the opponents thinking they got to face you?
Honestly, this season it felt like it was more personally, like it felt a little bit like pressure on me because I had yet to prove anything. And so, the established teams, the veteran teams, I don't know how much heed they took to it. And honestly, I don't really think I showed up as that until the last game. So yeah, at first that was a little bit intimidating for me. Felt like, hey, let me show something first. Like, let me do it first. So yeah, I think there's something to that on either side.
And you grew up in the relative Chicago area?
I actually grew up like West Central Wisconsin.
Okay, close enough.
Yep.
So how was it playing at Rockford? It would be close enough for family, friends to shoot down there. How was it, your first game in Rockford in front of, your relative hometown fans?
I've never experienced anything like that. Initially, some of us were disappointed that it wasn't going to be in Chicago, knowing like the huge, like flag football, just football community that we have here. That being said, it was closer to my family. My family were able to come down, and the support that we had there, even though it was, over an hour out of the city, was fantastic. Like I've just never experienced anything like it. I'm pretty locked in during the game. I don't really look or try to engage, but just feeling that energy was incredible. Yeah.
That was going to be my next question. So when you're on the field or on the sidelines, do you hear anything? Do you see anything in the stands?
I noticed it the first game because I've never really played at that type of level where there's that much of an audience. It's pretty easy to just lock in. I would say in Rockford, I felt the energy of it more. You hear the fans. Nothing in particular was like standing out because we were all so locked in. But yeah, it's mostly that energy that I felt.
It just killed me not to be at the game. I was out of town. I planned on coming to the game. I told Deanna that I'd be at the game, and then I got called out of town, so I couldn't make it, and it just killed me because I was really, especially after the last 2 years of the COVID garbage stuff. I really was dying to get back into it. But there's next season. So
there is next season, yeah.
So
Sorry you couldn't make it, but
well, I will be back. You will see me on the not on the sidelines. I'm not a coach, but you will see me in the stands or after the game at some point.
got the media pass, right?
I hope to. I used to have one. I will definitely be applying for one. I have to talk to Coach Sid or the owners. Take us to the championship game. Like, what was your prep going into that? What was your mindset going into that? Were you guys favored?
Going into the championship, I think we were slightly favored, if I remember, or I'm just remembering, where we were coming from, right? But
I thought you were favored in my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Going into it, I think we felt very prepared. We had more time getting to the game. We had a couple days before we were able to get down in Texas, and personally, that helped me a lot. I think mentally prepare. Previous games, it was pretty much like hit the ground and go, which can be tough with more travel, or even all of us are working full-time jobs. So that transition from like work brain, home brain, the women that have kids, and then going into game mode, I think we had ample time before the championship to get there. Mentally and physically, I was able to prepare a little bit more for this game, which I think probably showed in my performance. I was more locked in. We all were very keen to like the heaviness of that game for us. Atlanta, for the vets, it was a real rivalry. We really only got to play 2 teams this season, so we'd already faced them. We kind of knew what we were up against. They're a more physical team than Seattle, so just mentally preparing for that, getting our bodies ready. And I think it showed. I mean, it was really the first game where the defense stepped up and, held our ground the way that we were capable of doing all season. And we owed it to the offense. So I'm glad we had the opportunity to give back in that way, if you will.
And I know Dominique Collins, former safety, was down there. Did you get a chance to talk to her at all? Did she give you any tips?
I didn't get to speak with her. I know she met with some of the other players.
I was gonna say, because Chicago's got a history. Was there any extra pressure on your team to live up to I think they've had 4 titles before this one. Any extra pressure to live up to that, or is it just the pressure of the game is just that?
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't say it felt like pressure, but just like an expectation and knowing what we were capable of. And it's just, are we gonna show up and fulfill our potential? It was just up to that. And we knew we were capable of it. It was just a matter of, completing and performing.
So during all that, during the games, the actual games themselves, obviously you're focused on the game, but do you ever have time to kind of like just soak it in and go like, or even during the championship game to even go like, wow, this is, I'm actually doing this. I'm playing the sport that I love.
Yeah. And in the championship, I think more than the whole season coming off when the offense went on, it's like, oh my God, this is really happening. Like we're really here. We're executing. I definitely had those moments of like screenshotting, the memory and the feeling. And it was like, okay, this is what it's about. Like, this is what we've been working for. This is what this feels like. And it was very intense. It's addicting for sure.
And now that you've got the trophy and looking back, is it kind of surreal? Like, that's a major trophy.
Yeah, absolutely surreal. I told my teammates, like, I really don't know how to act at all. It was hard to believe. I feel like I'm still processing the whole thing, but it feels like winning that championship feels right for how much we've put into the team and each other. it feels like that makes sense.
Sure, sure. Now the $1 million question. I asked Emma this, so I will ask you the same thing.
Yeah.
Will you be back next season?
I am intending to be back next season. Yes.
Awesome. So when you're not practicing, and again, I know you guys practice pretty much year round, essentially. What do you like to do in your spare time when you're not consumed by football?
I have joked about it with a couple people. I felt like, the last couple of years, I just finished my grad program and I've been, working full time, but I feel like my priorities have been a little crazy because I fell in love with football during the pandemic. But yeah, I just finished school. I work as a clinical director at a mental health rehab, and just took on that role. So that's pretty exciting new stuff I'm working on. And I, playing volleyball. I'm a big thrifter. So I have a lot of extracurricular activities for sure.
Well, congratulations on the graduation and the new job. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a big couple of months.
I'm sure. Championship, new job. That's a lot to process for anybody. So I have to ask one more question, and I always have to brag a little. Did you get your ring yet?
No rings yet.
Oh.
No rings yet.
Yours will be shinier than mine. Mine's from 2014. Yours will be probably bigger and shinier, and you actually earned it on the field. I just earned it, doing interviews like this. So I
have to compare bling.
Absolutely. I look forward to that. So before I let you go, is there any place people can find out information, anything you want to promote?
You can find me on Instagram, Jade Austin .23. It's my number on the field. And I've got a small vintage shop called Finch Drive Vintage. You can also find on Instagram.
Oh, that's awesome. Is it a brick and mortar store or is it an online store?
Online and pop up.
Nice.
So, yeah, I pop up.
Very cool. I didn't know that. I learned something. I will have to I'll have to check out. Jay, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate it. Congratulations again on pretty much everything. Congratulations on everything. I will be out there next season, whether it's at practice or games. I've already talked to Coach Sid about that. I will be there, and we can compare rings, and we'll get an update from you too.
Sounds good. I'll plan on it.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, and you have a great night.
Thanks, John. You too.
Take care.